Hello again, and welcome everyone to Alumni University. I'm Ashley Agron, the Director of Constituent Engagement at Illinois Tech, and we're just very happy that you can join us this evening. Just so that you know, before we get started, please note that the presentation and the chat is being recorded, as I had mentioned. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to get them answered at the conclusion of the presentation. To introduce our presenter, Julie Bruns is a senior career development coach at Illinois Tech. She has a bachelor's from Elmhurst University and a master's from National Louis. Julie has worked in learning and development for over 20 years in healthcare, IT, consulting, environmental health and safety, and considers herself a lifelong learner. She has a passion for teaching others what's possible and loves connecting with people to share tips on how to enrich their lives, no matter where they are. She has recently joined Illinois Tech as a senior career coach and loves guiding students and alumni on their career journeys. Life and work can be wonderful, and she's here to show you how. This evening, Julie will share how Career Services is dedicated to assisting Illinois Tech alumni enhance their careers in a variety of ways. You are sure to end the evening with new ideas and even feel a little inspired. I will provide links to her podcast and book in the chat later in the evening. And with that said, I will turn it over to Julie.
All right, thanks everyone. Okay. So welcome everyone. I'm happy to be here. So my name's Julie Bruns, and I have been at Illinois Tech for like 7 or 8 months now. In this role, I like Ashley said, I've been in a career in leadership development and training development for my entire career, and I love helping the students at Illinois Tech, and I'm happy to be here. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about connections and how important they are in your career and in your life, actually. And I'm going to tell some stories. So if there's something you want to know about, I have my screen up and I can see the panel, but I can't see the chat. So if Ashley, you want to come off mute and let me know if someone's asking a question, I'd be really happy about that.
Will do. I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Okay. So I have a question for everyone. I want to start off with a question about connections, and do you think that they are important? I just wanted to get kind of a feel from the audience about what is and isn't important. And if anyone wants to you can come off mute and be really brave, or you could just type it in the chat. Like, do you think they're important connections? Had you thought about it before? It's really what I'm mostly curious about. Like no or yes. Is anyone typing?
I don't have anyone typing just yet, but I do. I think that they're very important.
Yeah, good. They are. They're super important, and they're kind of the thread that connects every part of our lives, if you think about it. This is a quote from some of the research. So I wrote a book, and one of the chapters in my book is called Connections, and there's a really good reason for it. I'll tell you in a minute. But the book that I reference and some quotes I talk about today are going to be about from the book called The Power of the Other by Dr. Henry Cloud. This is a quote from his book. And the bottom line, I'll let you read it. As long as you're alive in general, your heart and mind are always going to be searching for a connection, another person, another feeling, another something to make you fulfilled and feel purposeful. So this is common social thread for all of us. It doesn't matter where we came from. It doesn't matter how educated we are. It doesn't matter how big our families are. None of that matters. The whole point is, if you're put on this planet, you need to be connected to people. So when you're a baby, literally when you're in your mother's womb, and then until you die, and you need connections to thrive. Excuse me. I won't get into it in detail, but there's a lot of research around babies and how important connections are, literally touching them and being connected to their mother or their father or another person, and how it helps them thrive, and how detrimental it can be to their health to not have a human being to connect to. That's how important connections are. So if you were wondering, or you didn't think they were a big deal, they're a really big deal. So what do they mean to you and me? They're everywhere you go in your career, everywhere you go in your life and your education, you have to be connected to people, whether you like it or not. You're going to be connected to your professors, to the people you work with, your colleagues, your managers, your whoever you pick as a partner, your family, your extended family, your friends. Everywhere you go, you have to be connected to people, and it's up to you to decide if those connections are going to be good connections or bad connections. And he talks in his book, I'm not going to get into it now, but he talks in his book about how important connections are, how there's 4 corners of connections, and how there's really good ones and bad ones, and kind of pseudo good connections. And I'm going to venture to say that everyone on this call today can probably think of a connection that's good or bad, and how it makes you feel. When you have a bad connection with someone, it's like this, I'm not sure why, but something's about them is rubbing me the wrong way. I'm not sure why, but I left there and I don't really have a good feeling, and I can't put my finger on it. There's a reason for that. Okay. And then there's people that you leave, whether it's a classroom or a colleague's conversation or someone in your family, and you leave and you just feel inspired, and engaged and excited. That's a really good connection. And those are the ones you want to look for, and the ones you want to nourish. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story about connections. So when this is before I wrote my book. So this is back in 2016, 17, I was at a conference. It was an all women's conference. And that's important to note because there were only 5 men in this conference. There were 5 men. And that most of them were senior leaders for the company I worked for or related to the industry I was in. And they challenged us at the conference with coming up with an idea or something that we could implement or share that would help kind of make the world a better place, or our environment or something. It was kind of a lofty goal, but also a simple goal. And I didn't really have anything that I wanted to really pursue or a project idea, but I was having a problem. And the whole point of this connection story is that I had a problem that I wanted to solve, and I wanted help solving it, but I didn't know how to solve it. And at the end of the conference, the whole exercise was go up to people and go up one-on-one, like everyone, you had like 15 seconds to go connect with people. So she'd put the timer on, go connect with Ashley, Julie. And then I'd tell her my problem, and I'd see if she had an idea for me. And then I'd go connect with Bernard, and then I'd go connect with Alex. And each time I connected with someone different for 15 seconds, I would tell them what I was trying to get help with, and they would give me an idea, and then vice versa. So it was just like a cool way when you were done with this exercise to come back and have all these ideas. Just a spark of an idea. The other person said, I got nothing. I can't think of anything to help you. At least you asked someone. So you went out of your comfort zone a little bit, right? Well, my problem was I was not feeling connected at work. And this is before COVID. I worked in a virtual remote only environment from home every day. And the people I worked with were literally all over the world, in the Philippines, in India, in Seattle, all over the world. And I never felt connected to them. We'd get on the phone, we'd have these calls, and then we'd hang up, and I'm like, I don't know anything about them. I'm talking to them for 6 months. Okay. So I felt disconnected. And so I went up to one of the men there who was a senior leader at my company who I've never met before. And I walked up to him, and we had these 15 seconds, right? So I walked up to him and I said, I was about to say, do you know the problem with, and then give him the problem that I felt. Okay. And if anyone knows where can guess where the story is going, that's never a good way to open a conversation. So if you went to your spouse, your partner, your friend, and said, you know what the problem is, the defense mechanisms go up, right? The connection is kind of lost a little bit, because you're like, okay, now I have to be on the attack. Now I have to be in defensive mode, right? And so I didn't say that. I wanted to say that, but I knew that those weren't the right words. So instead I said, do you think we could benefit if everyone felt more connected here? And you know what he said to me? Guess what? Guess the word he said. Just guess the one word he said to me. I just want to see if anyone could put it in the chat. The one word he said to me.
Chat's disabled, so
Sure, they can use the Q&A.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So he said, I'll just let you guys know. He said, yes. I said, thank you, Sandro. Do you think people in our company would benefit if we all felt more connected? And the first thing he said was yes. And then he said it 2 more times. Yes. And I was like,
Bill responded as well. Bill did respond in the Q&A saying that the answer would be yes.
Yes. Thank you, Bill. Yeah. Thank you. So the whole point is, if I had started with, you know what the problem is? And I just started giving him a list of all the things that bugged me or all the things that were wrong. He'd be on the defense, right? And he'd be like, how am I supposed to solve all these problems? We got like 15 seconds. This is not fair, right? It isn't fair. So I didn't do that. I did this instead. He said yes. And I said, well, I have an idea. And in the moment, honest to God, you guys, I write about this in my book. In the moment, he said, I started giving him a plan of action to solve this problem. I said, what if we got together every month? I invited every single person in the company and I picked a topic that we can all relate to, some universal life topic like connections, gratitude, mindfulness, joy, things that everyone can relate to, right? What if I just pick a topic and I invite everyone to come talk about it? I'll do the research, I'll do all the work, and I'll just invite everyone and we'll start connecting that way. And he said, go for it. Go for it, and I will help you. So this is our conversation. It was like 5 minutes long. Go ahead and go for it, and I will help you. And I will help you, and I will get speakers, and I'll even come talk at one of your sessions. So I leave there like on cloud nine, like just so jacked up and so excited. I got in the car to drive home, and I was just like that sensation you get when you're just like electrified and just so excited. That's how I felt. I just knew I touched on something really important. So this was September, October. I formulated a plan, and I had my little plan going, and I was going to do some research, and I was going to come up with the first topic that I thought would be the best. And guess what topic I came up with? I came up with connections, because I thought I'm not the only one I gotta not be the only one who's struggling with this lack of connection. I know there's other people feeling what I'm feeling all over the world with our company, and they love where they're working, but they don't feel connected. I know that. I just knew it in my heart. So I decided to talk about connections. And then I went to a lot of people I knew at work, and I said, can you come and tell me a story about a connection you made and how it affected your life in your career or personally? And then so I had all these speakers from the company, senior people that were coming on, men, women coming on and telling their stories. It was phenomenal, you guys. Over 300 people came to the meeting, and broke with Skype we were using at the time. It started to crash because so many people were trying to join the meeting, and I was not expecting this problem, right? This really, really good problem. So the meeting ends, it was phenomenal. And I did another one the next month, and I picked the topic of resilience. And then I did it again the following month. And then people started emailing me, senior people, and saying, what are you doing to get all these people at your workshops? And I said, I'm just picking topics that I think are relatable to every person, whether they just graduated college, they're about to retire, whether they live in India, the Philippines, in Italy, doesn't matter. Everyone can relate to these things. And I'm picking things that are universal. And I guess I was right. And that turned into a new series for the company that I launched, and I just got people on board and picked topics and started researching. And it also resulted in almost 3,000 people in 8 months, you guys, came to those workshops. All because I had a problem, but I came up with a solution for it. And I happened to be standing in front of someone who could give me the permission to do it. So I didn't go around and tell my boss what I was doing. I mean, I told him what I was doing, but I said, I have permission from this person who's like two levels above my boss. I'm going to work on this, and I'll do it in my spare time. It won't affect my job. And I'm doing it. And then when I ran into him, actually, sorry, the senior leader, a couple months later, I said, I ran into him in the office in Chicago, and he lived in, I think, North Carolina. And so I never saw him in the office. Remember, I didn't know him. And I ran into him and I said, we met at that conference a couple months ago, and you told me that you would help me. And I'm already working on it, and I need you to come to this session. I'm doing it in December. And he said, all right, connect with my team and figure out a date that we can do this, and I'll be there. And it ended up launching in January. And it was, he's like, send me the book, send me what you're working on. And that's what I did. And it was a phenomenal program. And all these people were asking me what I was doing. And then it actually turned into another program for another side of the business. They wanted me to help them with leadership development. So the whole point in that is, then it led to a new job opportunity. The whole point in that story, you guys, is just to share that it's not, it was simple. It was a connection I made with someone. It was something I said that connected with him. And if he didn't feel connected and didn't say yes to me in the way he did, I could have pitched that idea to someone else until I found someone that had the same connection with me about this problem and this solution. I got lucky. But I would venture to say that luck favors the prepared. And I was in that conference. I was doing all the work. I was really excited to be there. And I did the exercise, and this is what came to me. So it's all about doing all the work and putting in the work. And then you find yourself in these positions where the right words come to you, and they result in this really cool thing. I'm just going to pause there and see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to bring up bring up the Q&A. Does anyone have any questions so far? Bill, Sandro? It's good to see you guys.
I think Bill had just mentioned when you asked if our connection's important, he did respond saying that is how he found his current job.
Yeah. It's so like, I talk to students about it all the time here about networking, and it's not an accident because you built a connection. Now, if you had built a connection with someone for that job and they didn't really like you very much, or you were being selfish and just telling them what you needed and not doing anything for them, chances are they probably wouldn't have referred you, but they referred you because you made a good impression, and it's all part of the connection. So this that story ended up, I wanted to do more of what I was doing at work. I loved this and I liked my job enough. And then this was really fun to do on the side. So I pitched the idea to have a hybrid role, and they, unfortunately, just the way this company was structured, they couldn't have me halfway in this position and halfway in this other department. So that didn't work out, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the path I want to make, even if it hasn't been done yet, and I'm going to figure it out. And eventually it didn't work there, but I got a great referral from my boss, and I went and ended up going to another role that was very similar to what I was doing with this program at a new company. And I left on good terms, and I made a big splash before I left, and it was, I never regretted it. And it ended up being the foundation for my book and my company. So that was a couple of years later. I was doing these workshops, and I got this other job, and I decided, I want to keep doing what I'm doing all the time. And I want to write a book and talk about what I'm talking about, and all of these workshops that I'm doing. I'm going to make a book about it. And that's what I started doing. I started a company, and I started consulting and doing these workshops that I'm talking to you about for other clients around the world. So all of that is from this connection that I made, and this book I read, basically, that encouraged me to make these connections and do something with my problem. Really, is what it ended up being. This is the name of my book. It's called Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective. And I wrote this on my own without any help. I edited it, and I did a hybrid publishing. It's called hybrid publishing. And while I was consulting with new clients on my own, I wrote my book. And then I did this on my own, and I wrote it, and then I had to edit it. I paid someone to help me edit it. And it was all part of possibilities and what's possible if you have the right attitude and you have the right connections and you're doing all the right things, how anything really is possible. That's why it's called Peace, Possibilities, and having perspective about everything you experience. And then it became a bestseller, my book. So on Amazon, this is my book. The publisher that I worked with created all these beautiful images, and we did this bestseller launch on Amazon. And I love the library, and I love all these other resources and small bookstores too. So I got my book in some bookstores, and I got my book at the library, and I did all these other things outside of Amazon, because I know, Amazon, say what you want about them, but originally they were books only. That's how they started. And it's the easiest way to get it in the most hands. And that's what I wanted. I wrote this book so that I could help people and share with them connections and share with them my ideas about how to thrive and have a good life. And I used Amazon for that platform. And I never looked back. It became a bestseller. And the really cool thing on this screenshot is you pick categories to post your book in, and when you're launching it. And the fun part was that this book was part of What Color is Your Parachute? This book I read when I was in my early 20s. I was trying to figure out my purpose and what I wanted to do. And it was so cool to see my book beat out this book for this category. And then in another category, this nonprofit management and leadership, it was number 2 for the day that it was launching, or it was a couple days. But it was just really fun to see my book up there with some of the books that I've read and that I hold dear to my heart. It was really fun, and it's just another testament to doing the work and putting in the effort. And these connections, the way I wrote this book, didn't happen in a bubble. But this book, I knew I was already writing my book when I started my company and I quit my job. I knew that I needed to get it over the finish line, but I didn't know how to do that. So with all my connections, I wrote an email to the people in my life and on LinkedIn that I supported my job, supported me in my work, supported me in my career, in my education, and were positive influences. This is key, good connections, positive influences. And I said to them, here's what I need. Who can help me? Who can give me ideas? Who's written a book? Who's had a coach? Who can help me? I don't know what I need to get it over the finish line, but I know that it's almost finished, the book. What do I do next? And I had probably 10 people reply to me. Here, Julie, try this. I heard this. Talk to my friend over here. Go connect with this person on LinkedIn. And eventually I found a business coach, and I found the person, the publisher, to help me publish my book. And all of that was because I sent an email to the people that I had good connections with. So that's not an accident. I didn't try to do it all on my own. I researched, I figured out how much money it was going to cost, how much effort it was going to take. And then I started asking people that have already done it and other people to help me. So that's all because I had good connections. It didn't just happen overnight, but it happened because I built the connections. And then $89 million later. No, that's a lot of money. And I did not make that money. And I don't know, for those of you that are avid book readers, or I'm not even sure if you've even ever thought about this, but most people, unless you're, J.K. Rowling, you don't write a book and then get rich from it. Unless your book's made into a movie, etc. But typically, you don't get rich from it. But it doesn't mean it's not a success to me. So I sold a lot of books in the beginning. And the fun part is you have to open an account so that Amazon and other places that your book's at can send you money when people buy it. So it's fun to see this little account that I have. And every once in a while, it's $5 more, $10 more, because people buy my books throughout the course of the year, or every 3 months, I get a little credit and says, hey, you made some money and some about your book. So to me, that's a success. It gets in people's hands and they get to read it and refer it to other people. And maybe one day it would make me rich, and that would be just fine, but that's not why I did it. And anyone that ever written a book will tell you, if that's your number one reason for doing it, it's probably not going to be a very heartfelt thing for you. You have to do it with the right intentions. So I'm just going to pause there and see if there's any questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Sandra Zuniama, an alum.
Hi.
I mean, out of the school for a while. I'm also on the board and the chair of the Career and Professional Development Committee. And my question is, so when we try to help students, like you are and the committee is, one of the first challenges that they have is they struggle making decisions, right? To things like this, like what you're talking about, making connections. Maybe they're too introverted.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you give them to just kind of take that leap of faith to clear that hurdle to start seeking their goals?
Yeah, so it's good. It's a good question. I would say, and I say this to the introverted students I have, whether you're introverted or extroverted, no one really likes this networking thing. No one's really like, yay, I get to go talk to people. I mean, kind of I'm like that, but I know I'm the extreme. I know it's not common. I say everyone's a little bit uncomfortable. So if you can remember that the person you're walking up to, even though they may seem extroverted, they're still a little bit uncomfortable. And then I say, do something that will help you feel more comfortable. So if you see a more quiet person over in the corner, go up to that more quiet person who seems more introverted like you and just ask them a question. I say the easiest thing to do is to ask the other person questions and get them talking, because as soon as you can get the other person talking, they'll be more comfortable. I think if everyone knows, even if you're trying to, date someone, it's like as soon as you ask them questions, they open up a little bit. And it's easy to talk about yourself because you know yourself so well. You don't have to say what do you think about the weather, or what is some subject that you don't know that they know anything about. But if you ask them about themselves, their job experience, their career, their education, whatever it is, they'll start talking pretty easily. And all of a sudden they're a little bit more comfortable, then you're a little bit more comfortable. It doesn't have to be a really long conversation, but asking questions is like that. I wrote a book about this. I wrote a chapter about this in my book, Curiosity. It's one of the easiest ways to connect with people. And then I would say, do this in writing on LinkedIn, and then you can also share with people. I'm typically a little bit shy. So if I seem quiet, it's not because I'm not interested, it's just because I'm a little shy. And then, and that also opens the door for the other person to say, they're probably going to say, me too, I'm a little shy, or don't worry about it. Let's just have a conversation. You can let them know in a professional way without seeing it as a weakness. I think probably the best way I would say it. It's a really good question. So yeah, so after my book was launched and it did really well, I recorded an audiobook. And again, I'm going to say, how does this, what does that have to do with connections? I've never recorded an audiobook in my life. I never even wrote a book in my life. I've listened to an audiobook. I'm mostly reading though. I'm visual, so I like to read instead of listen to audiobooks. But I know that this is, especially during COVID, everyone, the book sales, the audiobook sales, like just crushed the regular book sales. So I thought, what a cool way to bring my book to other people. Like my husband was one of them. He does not read. I mean, we've been married over 25 years. I think he's read 2 books in his entire life because he cannot process information that way. So I'm connected to him and I obviously know more about him. So I'm like, this is something that I could do for people that are that don't learn the way I learn. And I created an audiobook. I recorded it myself. I knew nothing about how to do it. I read. My husband read how to do it. I asked other people how to do it. And I bought the equipment, which was just a microphone. I already had my laptop. And then I went into my friend's bedroom where it was all of it was cushioned and everything. And I spent a weekend and I recorded my book. And I'm not anyone extraordinarily smart or special. I just said, this is something I really want to do. I know other people are doing it. I know I don't have to pay someone a ton of money to do it. I know I can figure it out. And I also was already interviewing people using some software technology for a podcast that I have. So I was doing that already. So I knew it was just like another step forward with that. So technology, I'm not intimidated by, and I've been a software trainer before. So I knew that wasn't going to be too hard, but all of the ins and outs of doing it, you can get on the internet and figure almost anything out. And that's what I did. And now I have an audiobook, and this is also not something everyone has. It's a regular book and an audiobook. And I reached out to my connections and I figured out how to do it. And people were totally willing to help me because I was making good connections, and people like helping people they like. Tell that to students too. People want to work with people they like. People want to help people they like. And then I recorded it. So my podcast is 3 years, 150 episodes. I did this all along when I was writing my book and doing my company. And this is the result. I did 1 a week for 3 years. No one taught me how to do this either. I just decided to learn how to do it and purchase the software to put it on a platform and make a website, which is what I did as well. I hired someone to help me with the marketing and the logos and stuff. And other than that, I figured everything else out and started designing a website and created my podcast and started interviewing people. So this podcast is 150 people that love the work they do. And they're sharing their stories about how they figured it out so that other people can do the same. So 150 more awesome connections. Almost every one of them I never knew before. There are some people that are my friends that I knew from friends of friends, but most people I talked to I've never met before. I ended up interviewing the co-founder of North Face, some TV personalities on Food Network and HGTV, and I just reached out to people. I connected with them and I wrote them emails and said, I love your energy. I love your story. I'm so excited to talk to you. Would you be willing to come on my podcast and tell your story? I started connecting with them and they started saying yes. And 150 episodes later, I have all these examples exactly of what I wanted to prove, which was it's possible to do work you love. And here are the stories to prove it. So again, I didn't have anything special. I didn't have a wad of money. No one helped me. I'll just give you this, seed money and then you can go do it all. I didn't have any money to do any of this. I just figured it out with my connections. Does anyone have any questions about that? How I figured it out? Thanks for including that podcast link.
There are no updated questions in the chat or in the Q&A. In the chat, I did include links to both the book and the podcast.
Thank you. And I just want to share some of these quotes about connecting. So 2 of them, the top one and the one on the right are from the book, The Power of the Other with Dr. Henry Cloud. And the one at the bottom is from Brene Brown. And she's just talking about how important connections are and that the energy that you have that exists. I mean, everyone's felt it with their friends, with their partners. Something you really can't necessarily articulate, but you can feel. And how important they are and what they do for your life. There's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. I mean, no matter how it looks to the outsider, they didn't get there on their own. They got there through help with other people and the right connections for sure. Andrew, did you have a question? No. And just because I'm a big avid reader and it's important to me to get the book in libraries so people that didn't necessarily have the resources to buy it could do it. So this is my book at the local library that I wrote it near. And I just sent an email, connected with the person there. Actually, I walked into the library, I think, and I said, listen, I'm a local author, brand new author. I'd love to have my book in your library. And this is not an easy thing. I think there's like 8,000 libraries in the United States of America. And even though they're all connected, kinda, it's not necessarily an easy thing to get your book in there. You can send them the book and they may or may not put it in there. You can ask them to order it. I mean, there's all this policy behind it, but I'm like, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm just going to start asking. And eventually people started saying yes. So it's in a handful of libraries. It's in the Chicago Public Library, in the Harold Washington branch. So that means if you live in Chicago, you can get it from any of these other branches. But it's really fun for me to have it out there and just to prove like this was what I dreamt of. And it's kind of fun, like all of these down here, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I don't know if anyone's ever read that. It's an older series, but it was a big thing for me in my 20s. When our sons were younger and I would read these books all the time. And the cool story about the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, I think, this Chicken Soup for the Soul is the #1 selling book series ever of all time. And it's because they were rejected. They sent their proposal, I think is to 146 or 148 people that said no to them until finally the last person, the 145th or the 148th, finally said yes. They brought it to a conference. They handed it out to a bunch of people. One of those people read it on the plane on the way home. And because they connected with the right person at that conference, you just never know who it's going to be. That person read their book on the plane, called them when they landed and said, we want to publish your book. And the rest is history. It's 30 years later. It's unbelievably successful. So whether it's a book, an app, a website, even if you don't necessarily want to even ever write a book, you can have a great job. You can have a great experience. You can work for a great company or a great team. It all is possible, but it's all about the connections you're building along the way. They're going to help you get there. You're going to get there sooner. You can do it on your own, but why? Why would you do it on your own? I am writing another book now that I didn't realize I was going to love it so much. So I'm a career development coach and I love my work here. And I also love writing and I loved doing the podcast too. So I'm writing another book about parenting and my experiences as a parent because my kids are in their 20s now. And now that I've done it once, I know what it entails and I know what I need to do. And it's fun to think about getting something else out there. But my first book was definitely the one thing that I needed to get out there. But it's fun to think about doing it again. So for you alumni or I don't know if there's any students on the call, but career services is the nice thing about it is it's for all the students that go here, obviously helping them get jobs, but it's a lifelong benefit to you as an alum. I didn't realize this when I started, but yes, and it's not common for every university across the United States. We offer these services even after you graduate. It's not just, I think U of I is like 2 years and then they're kind of on their own. But no, not here. You can come back anytime and say, can you help me? Give me some guidance. I'm trying to update my resume. Whatever it is career related, we can help you with. So it's kind of fun to think about the fact that you have this service available to you and you don't have to do it all on your own. And we also have another, I launched another podcast here at Illinois Tech. It's called Happiness and Success After Illinois Tech. We released our first episode February 1st. We're going to do 2 a month, and we're going to talk to only alumni who, in all different areas and all different, majors that have discovered a great job or a career that they love since they've graduated from Illinois Tech, and they're telling their stories about how they did it and how they encourage others to do it. So that we just launched February 1st, and we're going to do 2 a month. So, and I already have several more recorded, and we're going to release some for everyone to see. It's going to be, so it's on YouTube right now, and it's going to be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. in the next probably week. I don't have a link for that, although I can find it for you if you want me to get it real quick.
I posted a link to the upcoming career fairs that are happening at Illinois Tech as well. So if anyone is interested in those, there's a link there as well. I have a question for you, Julie, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of connecting on platforms such as LinkedIn? You know, where not everything is in person just yet, and LinkedIn and virtually is kind of the way that people are connecting. And, you know, what's the best way to go about doing that as you're requesting people on LinkedIn and sending messages to people you're just meeting? Just do you have any advice on those type of career networking platforms?
I do for sure. And then I'll answer Bernard's question I can see in the chat. So on LinkedIn, there's a mechanism called, so you can connect with people. I'm pretty sure everyone on the phone knows about this, but you go to connect and you invite someone to connect with you in your network. But there's another button called, once you hit connect, sometimes it takes 2 buttons of connect, but you get to a place where it says add a note. And even if they're a LinkedIn premium member, it still says, instead of messaging them, I'm not recommending that, I'm recommending connecting. And then before you send the connection request, there's an add a note button. And I've taught all my students how to do this, and I'm happy to share with anyone the trick how to do it, but it's not really a trick. You just click add a note. There's 300 characters you get in this window. And I've done this before, and it's helped me connect with a lot of people. And you write a 300 character note, a personal note that says, like, if I want to connect with Ashley, hey, Ashley, I see you do these cool workshops, and I was attending the other night and I saw Julie on there. How can I know someone who would be great for that. How can I refer them to you? Or it was great watching that. How can I learn more about Illinois Tech? All I'm doing is telling Ashley what I like about what I saw. So Ashley's going to say, wow, this is kind of cool. She's giving me a compliment. She's excited. I'm happy to connect with her. She's going to accept the connection. And maybe she replies to me and maybe she doesn't, but accepting the connection is the first step. And there's going to be a lot of people that you connect with and they accept and then they never talk to you again. But that's okay. That's your opportunity to go back into LinkedIn. And then you go to the messaging section in LinkedIn, and all of the people that you've ever sent a note to are there. The connections you've already made are listed. And then you have, once you see that and their name there, because you connected with them, then you have a bigger box to type a message to them, to ask them for something or to tell them something more in a longer story. You also have icons like an attachment icon and a video icon and an emoji icon. So now you can do more with that connection than just those 300 characters that are initially in the add a note feature. So I highly recommend this. It's worked wonders for me. I tell all the students about it. People are very impressed to hear the notes that they read, because what you're doing is you're not saying, hi, I'm Julie. Hi, Ashley, I'm Julie. I'm wondering if Julie can help me with get a job. You don't even know me, and you're like, okay, you probably will help this person, but the bottom line is that's just me asking you, a random total stranger, can you help me? And I don't recommend doing that. I recommend complimenting them. I recommend telling them, I've been following you and you post some really cool things. I'm really inspired by what you do, or I see the projects you're working on. I've always wanted to work for a cool company like yours. These are the kinds of things people like to hear. And when they're genuine, they come off really well, because I don't recommend you do any if it's not genuine. And people want to be connected to people that admire them and people that are excited to work with them. Who wouldn't want to? So those are the things that are going to help you stand out. The rest of social media, I don't know how good it is for job hunting. I would say if you are a younger student looking for a job, I would say be very, very careful about what you post on Instagram and these other platforms that you're using, because recruiters are going to compare you to other people, especially when it's really competitive. They're going to look you up and they're going to compare you to other people. So watch what you post and like and comment on, because that's easily accessible to recruiters. And then Bernard, I would say advice for your junior in high school. So I have 2 boys. One's a junior in college now. The other one is graduated from Illinois Tech 3 years ago. So this is what I would tell them and have told them. Go for what you love learning about. If you go for what you want something to do to make money in, it's going to fade and you're going to be miserable. Like, you can make money at something you love, I promise. But if you go for the opposite, you just go for the money first, it's going to get old really, really fast. And then you're going to be stuck in this trap of, well, I'm learning all this great money and I have this great house and I have this family and this nice car. I hate what I do, but I make a lot of money. You cannot sustain that. It's not healthy for your family, for your body, physically, for your body and your mind. It's just not. And who's to say you can't make just as much money doing something you love? So you really need to follow what you love. So I would say to this junior in high school, there's things that you do during the day that time just flies. You sit down to do it and oh my God, 3 hours have just passed. It feels like 15 minutes. Those are the things that you should be looking at, studying and learning more about. And I guarantee you there's something related to that passion that there's a degree in. I guarantee it. And if there isn't, tell them to call me and I'll help them find one, because there is. Any other questions, comments? Do you want me to find the podcast link, Ashley, and put it in the window?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. While you're looking for that, I will just go ahead and mention that we did also just launch a new platform for the Illinois Tech community. It's called Illinois Tech Connect. So that is a way that you can connect with fellow Illinois Tech alumni and students as the platform progresses. They'll have mentoring programs. You'll be assigned to different communities based on your major, but that's a great way to connect with just fellow Illinois Tech people and build your own network of Illinois Tech people that can help you. I will go ahead and post the link to Illinois Tech Connect in the chat as well. Thank you, Julie, for posting the link to the podcast. And I think, my apologies earlier, I had mentioned that someone made their, or is in their current job from a connection they made. I had said it was Bill, but it's actually Bernard. I apologize. I read the name wrong. Let's see.
Bill's note here. In 1985, I was working at the gas station at Union 51st. I hadn't graduated. One of my classmates was working there. Put me in touch with this boss and I was hired as an inspector. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you just never know. So the link I posted to that first podcast we just released is a similar story. He just, someone reached out and wanted to find an Indian basketball player. They were researching some random thing. And this person reached out to him. He was on the basketball team here at Illinois Tech. And then he connected with him. And that person didn't lead to end up getting a job, but something else led to it. That initial connection led to like 2 or 3 more things about him finding a job. It's just the craziest thing. You just never know where things are going to lead. So I tell my sons and I tell all the students I coach here, just always be on the lookout. You never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who you're talking to, who you're going to literally bump into, sit next to on a plane. You just don't know. So just keep your eyes open and just kind of be curious and think about what could be possible. You just never know what a workshop, one thing from this workshop tonight is going to send someone here to talk to their, someone at home in their family and say, I just heard this quote, or did you know this, or whatever. And then you talk to that person, now they're going to be inspired to do something different. Like, this is how the world works. And this is why it's so exciting. This is why I'm really happy that everyone's getting back to normal things now. We don't have to do everything virtually. I mean, this is great, but to be able to connect in real world with people, there's nothing like it. And the deep tunnel. What's the deep tunnel, Bill? I don't know what the deep tunnel is. Yeah, we have so many resources we can offer students in career services and like I said, an alum too. So anything related to your career we can help with.
Yeah, I don't think most alums know about this service. I think it's something definitely that we probably need to work on
Hello?
to advertise.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't have to type this. The person who is speaking, you could finish unless you want me to explain what the deep tunnel is.
Yeah, please.
So deep tunnel, 2 major tunnels underneath the Des Plaines River, Chicago River, under the Chicago River to collect rainwater that would get mixed in with the sewer water. It's an issue all across the country. In Chicago, it took them 10 years to design. They started the construction underneath the Chicago River in the mid-70s. By chance, it was like maybe my 3rd, 4th job. My boss actually was looking for someone to alleviate some of his burden. His company was out of Seattle, or rather he was living in Seattle. He would have to come to Chicago. So somebody suggested he go to some of the local universities and find somebody that you can train. As it turned out, that turned to be me. While I was on that project, I was actually back in school finishing my degree, and that's how I got that connection there. I already typed in the other ones that I got. He called me a few years later, after I'd graduated, wanted to know if I wanted to come out to a job to Portland. So in some instances, yes, your connections. And I just briefly, not to go off topic here, when I received the invite for this podcast or discussion, I thought it was more, I guess, connections for work. And not that it isn't, but some of what you said is connections in general for just human beings. We're social creatures. We have to connect and socialize. But with regards to my connections, at least in the business world, these are a couple of examples of how people that I knew found me work or recommended me for a position. And something you had said earlier, your different connections. My brother never finished school. So some of the people he deals with, they're not educated people as in a college education. So he's not going to get the connections that I get. I don't associate with some of the people that he does. So, I'm going to get different type of work. I'm going to get a more professional connection. Some of my last positions that I've had when somebody recommended me, not necessarily turned out, but it's because of my degree and the, I guess you could say the, the caliber or crowd type of people I deal with. If I'm hanging out, in a bad part of the city, I'm sure I'm not going to run into some engineer. So kind of talking about how I kind of got started working. That didn't necessarily have to drop out of school, but that grocery gas station, anybody who's in Chicago right now or near IIT, you drive down 31st Street, and I think it is Union. I looked it up on the map. I worked there for a few months. As I said, one of the guys that I went to school with, he came in, and that kind of got my feet into the construction industry. And eventually I worked as a laborer to get money to get back into school. But my connections were based on, I guess you could say, by the company that I keep.
Yes.
I'm not going to hang out with doctors because I'm not going to be a doctor. It would be helpful for, if I get some illness or something, but I typically hang out with construction people.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Something to add, again, I've been working since 85. I should have graduated in 84, graduated in 91. I'm 60 years old. I'm in Fresno now. I've been across the country. The last company I was with, unfortunately, didn't work out. It was a bad fit. And you mentioned connections and kind of, people, I kind of take it as people with like-minded interests. When you go to a company, you're connected by virtue of the work. That company was almost like, I appreciate the concept of the effort, getting people together, but you're not friends at work because you're friends or you work together. You're friends because you do make a connection. There's a chemistry or whatever. You gravitate towards certain people. When I went to Portland, there was a couple of guys about my age. They were both married. I wasn't. We would go to lunch together once I came into the office, just to get out of the office. And considering that we were adult males, yes, we would oogle women. We weren't rude about it, but the three of us would talk and make our comments by ourselves and stuff. But we had a connection. Being that it's construction, a lot of construction guys like to go out after work and drink beer. I don't drink beer. I like to play baseball. I go to the batting cage. So one of those guys came with me one time, but you make these connections and you become friends because there's this like-minded ideas or connection or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't like the rest of your coworkers, but if there's no, again, the connection as a chemistry, it doesn't happen. Going back to my last company, I knew within a month I just didn't fit in there. It didn't help that I lived 45 miles away, but there was just an atmosphere that didn't work. So just in general, I guess these are some of my experiences within making these connections or contacts. My other experience is the person who brings you to a project, when they go, you go. So I think it's important. Thank you for sharing. I think it's important to note that there's
like you said, you had a feeling about this environment, and yes, it was far away, but you knew you weren't a fit. Like, I just think you just know. And I've taught my kids the same thing. Like, when there's not a fit, when there's not something's telling you it's not right, it's not right. Like, you can try to like round or square peg and round hole or whatever that saying is. You can try, you can resist it and you can try to make it fit, but it either is or it isn't usually. And the same thing with people, you either connect or you don't, and you can try and you can be friendly and polite, and but you can make other connections. I was going to say to you, Bill, that person that referred you that would come into the store, he did that because he liked your attitude. He liked something about you. If he thought you were a jerk, if you thought you had a bad attitude, he never would have said, come on over to my team, let me refer you to this job. No, he wouldn't have. He didn't feel connected to you, or he didn't like something about the way that you were talking or working.
We were students together. I think he had graduated at that particular point. It was a very simple job. He was getting like $6.50 an hour. He said we call it the 650 club. He was looking for work. He was a structural engineer, but like I said, he graduated, and he would come into the store, told me where he was working. I said, hey, like, are you guys looking, or what I need to do? He put me in touch with, the resident engineer, a guy that was overseeing our group. And, that's how I got actually working into construction.
Yeah.
Different people, like eventually I became a laborer. Like I put in there, and I'm pretty certain the next job I got was the contractor I went to work for had contacted the IIT placement office. They needed an estimator and a guy in the field. They hired me as the guy in the field. That led to something else. One of the operators, he knew me. And again, like you said, my personality, whatever, aside the fact that the guy from school knew me, if he didn't like me, I'm guessing he probably wouldn't have said anything. So
you're right.
According to when I worked for the excavation company, one of the operators, he took a liking to me. He saw how I worked and everything. I was trying to get back into school. I think it was 2 years later, he was on a job site, and however it was, he struck up a conversation with the project manager. I get a call saying, hey, you want to come work for us? It was just a laborer. I needed the money. That's how that connection panned out. It wasn't a professional position. I was just shoveling concrete, but it got me money, to go back to school. It led to something else. And then
you just never know.
Waited. Well, now I can go to companies and say, hey, I've got a degree. So then I have different connections.
Bill, I'm sorry. I got it. We gotta wrap up. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. It's just more examples of what's possible. So I appreciate that what was possible when you didn't have a degree, what was possible when you did have a degree. And thank you for giving those different examples, because it's important to know that what we're talking about fits all realms. I just wanted to see if there's anyone else had any more other questions before we wrap up. Check out that employee, that Illinois Connect, that new alumni. I reference it too, Ashley, in the new podcast. It's going to be in every podcast note that I do, and it's in the end of every podcast. So I'm telling everyone about it for sure.
Thank you very much, Julie. I think we may have time for one more question. Sandro, I think you may have been mid-thought a little earlier. I don't know if you wanted to wrap us up, or if anyone else had it.
Sure. Yeah, just thank you everybody for joining Sandra Mazzini and Alumni Board. Julie, thank you for sharing your stories. For everyone on the call, feel free to reach out to Career Services, of course, Julie and myself, in case you have any questions regarding how can IIT help you, or in other words, also about connections and networking. Thank you.
Yeah, Sandro, send me an email. I love to stay connected. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it.